Call this meeting back to order. The next order of business will be regulatory matters, central monitoring system. Nick, with the chairman, director of the Gaming Commission, would you please continue?
Thank you, Chairman Culp. I'll be very brief with this. Just kind of an overview of the CMS system. The Gaming Commission has promulgated rules that says that we may procure a CMS system. If that is done, this is specific to the skill-based amusement game side. If the commission ultimately procures some sort of a system like that, the vendors have 6 months to connect to that system. Currently, right now, we have access to the system that the manufacturer has designed for those games. So we can log in real time and see 90% of the skill games in the market. We can see the wagering activity from the vendor's side of it, or from the manufacturer side of it. On the HHR side, just recently, actually on July 15th, the commission was granted access to a system that was developed by our third-party auditor, the Thoroughbred Racing Protection Bureau, that gives us real-time access to all of the HHR data across the state. So we can log into that now and we can see real-time reporting for HHR machines. The commission in 2023 issued an RFP out seeking bids for a central monitoring system that would cover all things that we regulate: online sports wagering, skill-based amusement games, and HHR. That was out and did not receive any responses. So at that time, we were told that we could begin sole sourcing that product. We did start looking out. There's very few companies that develop products, CMS systems, specifically for skill-based amusement games. HHR is a little easier just because of the way that the platforms are built. But we did receive one quote back after we sole sourced that, and it was well in excess of $2 million a year. When we got that price tag, that was kind of just put to the side because it's just not cost effective at $2 million a year. I will let you know, though, that this is still something that the commission is looking at. I've been working with other vendors and developers to see if we can't come up with a much more cost-effective way to handle this across the board. And I would stand for any questions on the CMS system.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? Oh, Co-Chair Line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to what you can access as the Wyoming Gaming Commission to oversee the financials, are the manufacturing of the machines an issue, or is it all manufacturers are created equal? Could you speak to that?
Madam Chair, Chairman Culp, no, they're not. There's vast differences between the manufacturers and the way that the platforms are built. We currently have 5 manufacturers of skill-based amusement games. 4 of those are built on really a class 3 type gaming system. In fact, one of the games that we have out it's manufactured by Vanilla Games. Vanilla Games is a subsidy of Grover Games. Grover Games is a class 3 gaming manufacturer. The most predominant one that we have in the state is manufactured by Pace-O-Matic. Pace-O-Matic has built their system from the ground up. They're not built on a slot-based platform. So that's all proprietary build out. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank
you. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I ask you what we're paying on the HHRs machines per year? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, are you referencing like for the auditing part of it? So we have a contract with the TRPB that we pay. It's about $24,000 a year. That's for all of our third-party auditing of HHR activity.
Quick follow-up.
Follow-up.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'd say that $2 million is a bit exorbitant for 4 machines and 2 truck stops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. My comments. I had one. Director, why wouldn't we, or maybe you're not statutorily allowed to do just go back and charge these vendors for the monitoring of said data? I mean, is that possible, or are you restrained by lack of statutory ability?
Chairman Kolb, we're currently restrained from doing that in rule or any other way. It's very specific what we can charge for licensing fees, and that's not part of it.
Thank you. Well, seeing no. Oh, well, we have another question. Co-chair Line.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, have we ever come across a discrepancy with the access that you currently have versus what's actually been in the machines in the time that you've been with the commission?
Chairman Kolb, Madam Chair, no, we have not. Luckily, right now, what we have, they self-report. The skill-based amusement games self-report. They're done through their own systems that they have in place. They present that stuff to our office. We actually have inspectors and an auditor that can go out in the field and take the data that they've given to us, and they can look at the machines to ensure that what they're reporting to the commission is in fact what the machine says it is.
Follow-up.
Is that also, oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that also true of the HHR machines?
Chairman Kolb, Madam Chair, those ones are a little bit different because they're centralized and they're connected to a tote system. So those are much easier to audit. Those are real-time auditing, cash in, cash out, doors open. We can see everything on those machines.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that explanation. Next, we have, I think, LSO Karen. Would you want to continue on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to. Karen Vaughn, Legislative Editor, Associate Fiscal Analyst. Thank you for allowing me to testify remotely. I'm currently benched by a shoulder surgery. Turns out I'm not as invincible as I thought I was. I'm 9 days post-surgery and doing pretty well. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to give you an update from the Select Committee on Capital Financing and Investments, because they are also doing some work on gaming this interim. The Select Committee met on June 12th, and during that meeting, they voted to direct staff to develop 4 bill drafts related to gaming, 3 of which are related to the tax rate and distribution, and the last one relates to the topic before you, central monitoring. They'll meet next again on September 9th in Cheyenne to discuss the drafts. And if it's your pleasure, I will bring further update on that discussion when we meet as well. I wasn't involved in the drafting of the bill, but of course I was involved in the discussion that was had that day. I believe it's still in the review process, but I have seen a prelim copy. As far as central monitoring, that bill requires online sports wagering systems, skill-based amusement games, and simulcast devices, all simulcast devices, to be connected to a central monitoring system. It requires the Gaming Commission to have a system that does several things, first of which is to provide continuous monitoring of all gaming machines, to have the ability to disable operation and play of any machine that's not in compliance with the law, to have the ability to receive and audit not only the machines, but the network on an operational, financial, or program data basis, which of course is going to require back and forth communication with those machines and the network. It needs to, is going to be required to interact and link with a broad spectrum of manufacturers and equipment, and allow for program modifications and updates. I'm not sure where that's going to go once the committee meets. Like I said, I will be able to update you once they do. And of course, it will give the Gaming Commission the ability to promulgate rules in order to make all of this happen. Did you have any specific questions that I might be able to address?
We have one question, Co-Chair Line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Karen, for joining us, and I'm glad surgery went well. On the bill draft itself, does it name a specific company, or does it tell them to put it out for bid? Do we have any prospects on a company that can do all encompassing?
No, of course, the bill draft does not direct them to go with any specific entity. It just says that they will develop and operate one. And whether they're going to do that internally, externally, I think that's probably part of what's going to be up for that discussion that they have next month as well.
Thank you. I won't ask you to raise your hand either.
I can do the left, just not the right.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your work, even though you're a little bit under the weather. It seems like at this point in time, this is for educational purposes here. If we have other committees that are working on such bills, I think it's good to know this for the task force. But we don't need to reduplicate effort. I think this next topic is probably, a little more broad when it comes to problem gaming. And I don't know if anyone's work. Does anyone at the LSO office know that if anyone's working on some of the information on the social impacts, problem gaming? Is there any other committee working on that, or is that kind of clear? LSO, whoever would like to.
Sure, I can weigh in. Tamara Evely here. No, I don't think any other committee had this on their interim topic list, and I believe that this committee would be the appropriate place to take that up if desired.
Yeah, well, thank you for that comment. Okay, let's, Nick, further comments about this?
No more comments. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, thank you for saying what you said. Public comment. Anyone in the public wants to come up here and tell us what you think? Well, please introduce yourselves, whoever would like to go first, and tell us your testimony.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Catherine Wilkinson. I'm here today on behalf of Cowboy Skill and Pace-O-Matic.
Hello, good afternoon, committee, Mr. Chairman and committee. I'm Leslie George, also with Cowboy Skill, and I am a skill game vendor in the state of Wyoming, Wyoming-based vendor.
Mr. Chairman, members of committee, Jonathan Downing, Cowboy Skill and Pace-O-Matic.
All right, whoever would like to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will keep our comments very brief, but did not want to miss the opportunity during your public comment that mentioned skill games to just give a very brief overview as well as comment on the central monitoring system. I would just like to share with the committee, thank you for a lot of your observations throughout this meeting. I want to make it very clear that Wyoming, for the skill laws in Wyoming, were very explicit and laid out in law. That was very intentional, brought by our Wyoming vendors over several years of the legislature to be sure that everything that we do is clearly outlined in law. So everything with our limit of up to $4 per location, our $3 gameplay, our max 3,000 payout, as well as age 21, and then being limited to liquor stores, smoke shops, and truck stops. That was all very intentional with statute. And we just appreciate, that clarification. There was a question earlier about zoning. We are actually not zoned. Liquor licenses, which are establishments that our games are located in, go through some of the zoning. But as for skill games, all of our authorized locations are explicit in statute. So we just wanted to share that overview. Also comment briefly on your anti-money laundering law. We have no problem with any of that bill, and we support that effort, supported it in the past as well. With that, I would like to turn the time over briefly to Leslie to give you a very quick financial update and briefing of where we are with skill games.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. Again, Leslie George. I'm a Wyoming-based skill game vendor. I am one of 15 vendors licensed in the state currently, and I would just like to briefly touch on the skill market that's in Wyoming now that we have been overseen by the Wyoming Gaming Commission for about 5 years of reporting. So my company operates Cowboy Skill games that are manufactured by Pace-O-Matic, and of the 15 licensed operators, there are 6 of us that choose to operate Cowboy Skill. The 6 of us do comprise over 75% of the skill revenues that are generated. So we Cowboy Skill vendors, along with our manufacturer Pace-O-Matic, we work together to ask the state for the regulation, the bills and parameters for skill that Mrs. Wilkinson just described. We recognized how the distribution of skill games could become problematic if not done with the framework and the overarching landscape of Wyoming in mind. I'm proud of that work, requesting controls and limits on the skill games. It was the right thing to do. And frankly, if we hadn't asked for that and done it the right way 5 years ago, I don't think I'd be here telling you the success story that is skill games today. So that success story is that those of us vending companies that existed in the Wyoming prior to operating skill games, we were working our coin-op amusement business servicing small businesses, mom and pop style bars, fraternal organizations, and veterans clubs. And when we brought the regulation of skill in, we didn't just service pool tables, jukeboxes, and dartboards anymore. The skills were a lifeline of support and supplemental income to both our small businesses and our customers' small businesses. So in the course of asking for that regulation, we do also include truck stops. That was intentional, and it was a discussion because of the traffic, mostly on I-80, to capture some of that traveling through revenue. We, however, do not operate in convenience stores or gas stations, and that was because we didn't want to. Okay, so in 2020, we came under regulation, and there were 315 skill locations offering skill games in the state. That process legislatively effectively kept us under a moratorium that was that frozen market for about 3 years, which was during COVID. So during that time, the number of skill locations in Wyoming waned down to 296 locations. So that was a 6% decrease in our 3-year freeze. In 23, that moratorium was lifted once we had the sideboards that restricted our placement to where we just described. And that short expansion that spring was a 19% increase from 296 locations with skill games up to 354. This last annual report, 1 year later in 24, we have plateaued again. We gained 8 net locations from 23 to 24. So we went up to 362. That's just a 2% growth from 23 to 24. All of that data came from the annual reports of the Gaming Commission. So I was not just speaking about Cowboy Skill, I was referencing those reports. So we were plateaued, we had a small bump, and we are now plateaued again. So when we look at that plateau as far as revenue with skill games, in the first 6 months of this year, 2025, we are right on par with 2024 as for our projected skill revenue for the year. Last year, the net proceeds of all skill was 31.1 million. We expect 2025 to be about the same with maybe that marginal growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Jonathan, continue.
Thank you. Jonathan Downing on behalf of Cowboy Skill and Pace-O-Matic, and we'll wrap it up really quick here, realizing that you want to get home. And there's been a lot said about skill during yesterday's comments and part of today. Generally, as far as the monitoring system, we've had conversations with the commission staff, and part of that discussion had been around making sure they have access. Part of that access also goes back to when the legislation had first come about and ensuring that there were sideboards on where locations would go, how we were taxed, how taxes were collected, and ensuring that there was auditability, traceability, anything from having background checks run on people that are handling the machines to the vendors, operators across the board, and seeking to be transparent in that process for an industry that prior to now in Wyoming, there were 2 different paths forward that you could either go on the litigation route or go the legislative route. Our client had said, let's go in the front door. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's show the state, here's what the games are. Here's how they work. Here's how it is a form of amusement that is not supposed to be the sole destination for that amusement game. It's more supplemental revenue for your VFWs, your American Legions, your Veterans Service Clubs, bars. And then you also had questions about truck stops and smoke shops. And with truck stops and smoke shops, there was discussion. This issue has been in front of revenue, TRW. We now have 3 committees touching this issue right now. We appreciate you taking all that time. TRW is touching parts of it too. But along that end, when we came in It was also making sure that the state would have a level of comfort with how these amusement games would come into that market. Prior to now, you had unregulated games. And so it was ensuring you had a licensing system where you know that the game that's there has a sticker that says it's been reviewed by the state of Wyoming. It is a game that is considered in compliance with statute. There's an independent lab that also looks at that game, and it tests it for skill, and it ensures that you don't have games being played like you've seen elsewhere in those marketplaces in the past. And so when we look at, as we move forward with potential changes to the law across the various committees, you have a group of Wyoming small businesses operating in many Wyoming small business locations that are all very concerned about what those impacts might be. As to the central monitoring system, where there be the audits, the background checks, all of those different pieces, if there are concerns, we want to be transparent. We'll follow up with a letter later on just to make sure it's clear as far as here's where those safeguards are. And mainly if there's concerns with the industry, we are open and we want to be transparent with any questions that we receive.
Thank you. Task Force, questions? Oh, Co-Chair Line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miss George, sorry, I had to think of what your name was. Could you please repeat for me the net total that you did for skill games?
From 23, when we had the expansion to 24, we net gained 8 skill locations, and we were trying. That was a 2% increase.
Further questions? Seeing none, stay around if there's something comes up. Appreciate your information, and thank you for coming before us. Public comment on this topic? Anyone wish to come up with the public? Nope, seeing none, no takers. Public comment is closed. Task Force, guess I'll leave it up to you what you'd like to do at this point. I'll put my 2 cents in. I think we have to wait what the other committees are doing on this topic. I think there's a lot to do, but I'll leave it up to the task force on what you'd like to do. Co-Chair, you obviously wanted to say something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I recognize that the transparency, what the transparency has been coming into this section of the state, and recognizing that this industry is trying to grow at the same time that the state is trying to figure out what to do with it. I do see that the vendors are trying, that the operators are making sure that they're putting in the safeguards, and that our commission, our Wyoming Gaming Commission, is doing their due diligence to be as transparent as possible with the state and enforce the laws that they've been given. And I recognize that, and I just want to say thank you.
Oh. Sure, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you for that comment, Co-Chair. We're going to, anyone else want to make a comment? Okay, seeing no other comments, and I'm certainly done. Let's move on now. We're going to try to get the 1:30 block of time that was supposed to run to 3 o'clock. Now we're trying to move this regulatory matters under 18 in an hour. That's 3 o'clock, maybe 3:10. So we want to try to be, succinct and to the point, and try to get as much information in as possible. And if we have to, we can continue this conversation in the next meeting, if all else fails, if we feel like there's more time. So I guess first up, we have, so this regulatory matters, social impacts, responsible gaming, and problem gambling. Is Director Johansson online? Sure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can. Why don't you go ahead with your testimony and tell us, I guess, what's going on here?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Co-Chair, members of the committee. Stefan Johansson, I'm the Director for the Wyoming Department of Health. Good to be with you this afternoon. While I'd like to be there in person, I really appreciate the flexibility to testify remotely. As you mentioned, I'll keep my comments brief. I know there's some other folks on the agenda who you might want to hear from and have some more specifics. What we were asked to present to you is on the social impacts of gaming or problem gambling, kind of where the Department of Health, either directly or indirectly, has a role. I'll keep my comments to 3 general areas. 1 on the prevention and awareness side, 2 on the treatment side with mental health and substance abuse treatment, and then 3 with some potential next steps. Mr. Chairman, I might just mention before I begin that we were also asked at their June committee meeting by the Select Committee on Capital Finance to prepare some data, any available data on the impacts of gambling and problem gambling that we can. It's a little bit of a tough pot to pull really comprehensive data from, but we are preparing that for their September meeting, but happy to give you some of those elements that we've already done today. On the public health and prevention and awareness side, the committee is probably aware we do receive appropriations from the legislature for substance abuse, suicide, and other types of prevention activities. Generally speaking, that funding flows through county governments, and we have a lot of local control from those county governments and their prevention coalitions on exactly how they spend that money, what they prioritize, whether it's around substance use prevention, suicide prevention, or in this case, problem gaming, gambling prevention activities as well. From the Gaming Commission, as you're probably aware, also we receive about $300,000 per year. Again, we make that available to county governments to do various types of public health prevention activities in this area, including awareness campaigns, public information, partnerships and training with mental health providers, treatment courts, et cetera. And I know that folks that testify behind me might mention that there's been a few environmental scans done at the county level to try to improve the data collection that we have locally on how big of a problem this is, what are some options that would be suggested for the legislature, if any, to do about it, as well as what I hear is ongoing soon would be a statewide environmental scan, largely funded by the Wyoming Lottery. In addition, Mr. Chairman, we do in a variety of areas, we have a more comprehensive statewide survey called the BRFSS, which stands for Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance Survey, if you're not into the whole brevity thing. And that has a variety of different things that are surveyed. It's a national survey, but also targeted to states on various mental health, substance use questions, medical treatment questions, and we could add some specificity to that survey so that over the months and over the years, a bit more targeted data could be produced statewide for the various behavioral risks associated with problem gaming. Number 2, Mr. Chairman, on the treatment side, that's where when problems from the individual level or the community level are identified with problem gaming or problem gambling addiction, et cetera, that is where the Department of Health can be involved in certain areas with how we publicly finance our community mental health and substance use centers. But there's also a private market, as you all know, for mental health, behavioral health, substance use services, which the Department of Health does not directly fund, but certainly could provide information on referrals, things of that nature for folks who might not qualify for Medicaid or might not qualify for our state-funded behavioral health services. We pulled some data, Mr. Chairman, and it won't surprise you that the number of treatment admissions or clients, essentially what we do when someone is a client of a mental health center that the state finances, is we try to find out what the primary, secondary, and tertiary issues that they're dealing with are. And so we pulled the data on any client in the most recent year who indicated that problem gaming or gambling was part of their addiction. And that was around 22 clients. And that's out of about 10 or 11,000. So the raw numbers are pretty low, but we have seen some growth in this area. And I think national data and some of the local environmental scans would show growth in this area, especially among young people 18 to 34 years old. But I thought I'd mention, Mr. Chairman, because it is important that in terms of treating addiction, whether that's substance use, in this case, gambling, the treatment modalities and how you treat addiction are not necessarily specified to these specific conditions. Obviously, medications and certain modalities within the treatment might be very specific, but essentially what our community mental health centers or substance use centers and other treatment providers would do is try to treat the overall addiction. And often what we see is folks who might struggle with alcohol abuse may also indicate that gaming or problem gambling is part of their challenges. And so we see these co-occurring issues across the board. And so it's important for me to point out that generally speaking, we have not seen a huge uptick in clients at state-financed treatment centers whose only issue is on problem gaming or problem gambling. But the big caveat there is obviously we're not the whole picture. We're not the entirety of the mental health and substance abuse treatment landscape. I really just wanted to give you a sense of the state's role in, number one, what we can know on the public health and on the population health side, and also what those avenues for treatment might be in more of our state resources. And finally, Mr. Chairman, in terms of next steps, this is just from Stefan's perspective, and hopefully it's helpful for the committee. As I mentioned, I understand there's a larger effort on an environmental scan in this issue that is underway or will be shortly underway, which in the months to come could provide additional resources and information and data to the legislature, because I feel for you when there's obviously nationally a growing trend in this area, but I think it's prudent for state policymakers to better understand the problem before committing government resources or additional resources or setting up new programming. So I think it would be prudent to wait for the results of that environmental scan. As I mentioned, we've already started this process of adding some more specificity to that larger statewide survey as it pertains to gambling addiction or problem gambling. We're more than happy to update you at your next committee meeting or any other legislative committee that should inquire on the results of that. But please bear in mind that those statewide surveys have a bit of a lag, generally a year or two when the data is collected and compiled. So it's much more of a long-term impressionistic view, but can be a very helpful resource to see the macro picture of how the state is trending. Department of Health will continue to collaborate with some of the folks you will hear from today and have heard from with the Wyoming Lottery, the Gaming Commission, the county governments that we fund for various prevention activities, on being nimble and flexible with what our local communities believe is their top priorities and trying to support that with the funding that you all authorize to the Department of Health. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I do have our Senior Administrator of Public Health, Stephanie Sandoval, if you have any more specific questions or questions for me, but figured you'd probably want to hear from the other folks that were listed on the agenda with the Gaming Commission and the folks from Laramie County. So appreciate your time today and happy to stand for any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. Task Force questions for Director? I just have one, Stefan. Empirical data. I mean, I know we're working on information right now. So I'm looking forward to you presenting information that'll actually give us an insight on maybe on a direction we need to go or on the effectiveness of what we're currently doing after these studies are completed. We'll have to just wait and see, I suppose, at this point, and deal with that data when we get it. But need to be involved. I think it's an important, part of this discussion here about gaming and the side effects of gaming. But thank you for your testimony. Well, we move on to the next presenter. I didn't catch your name, ma'am. I'm sorry. Stefan, your staff.
Mr. Chairman, this is Stephanie Sandoval. I'm just simply here to answer questions if the committee has any.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Apologize should remember your name. My sister's name's Stephanie, one of them. Any committee questions? No, seeing none, thank you. I'm sure in the future we will be asking a lot more questions when we have data. So, but thank you for being available.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you. I guess whoever brings folks in in the LSO, is there Dr. Jennifer Shatley online? Or maybe Christine Thurmond? I guess whoever's online, would you just say they're online and we'll deal with them as they come online?
Hi, this is Dr. Jennifer Shatley. I was just admitted, I believe, as a presenter.
All right, Doctor, please continue with what you'd like to share with this task force.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Select Committee for providing the opportunity to share how ROGA is advancing responsible gaming standards and letting us share some updates on some of the initiatives that we're undertaking. I'm going to try to share my screen to go through a presentation. I'm hoping you can see that. Okay, just a quick overview, introduction to me. I kind of have a unique perspective that really shapes ROGA's initiatives and mission. I have been in responsible gaming for 25 years. I spent 17 years in the industry doing a lot of the industry first around responsible gaming. I was at Caesars Entertainment or Harrah's back in the day. And many of the things that we do in responsible gaming today are things that I had the privilege of creating and implementing there back in the early 2000s. So I do look at this from an industry perspective, but then I also have a research background. So I can translate sort of research findings into actionable programs within a operational environment. And then I also have a doctorate in public policy. So I do look at this from a perspective of a policy perspective. And then also I've been the president of the Nevada Council on Problem Gambling for the past decade. So I bring a lot of different viewpoints to this, and you'll see how that sort of shapes the initiatives that we're doing at ROGA. So the Responsible Online Gaming Association, we're a fairly young organization. We were formed in March of last year, but we have done quite a bit in that amount of time to really start shaping responsible gaming in the online industry and to start moving standards forward. We understand there's an opportunity and a responsibility to really learn how to promote responsible gaming better amongst all players. And really one of our biggest missions and one of our biggest things that we can do is collaboration. So facilitating a lot of important innovations that operators can't do individually. So bringing them together for collective impact and putting together initiatives that can be felt across the industry and not just at one individual operator. And then also driving forth evidence-based best practices. Really looking at research that's missing. Research is actually quite young in this field for responsible gaming in general, but definitely for online responsible gaming. So we're looking at how do we help fill those research and evidence gaps in order to help more inform what we're doing from a responsible gaming perspective. So our members represent 90% of the online sports betting market. So you'll see most of the big operators that I'm sure you're familiar with are part of our members. And they're all helping to collectively work together to look how we advance these standards and have a more collective impact. So specifically our purpose over the years and in my experience, what we've seen is this conflation between problem gambling and responsible gaming. So whenever we talk about responsible gaming, the conversation tends to immediately shift to problem gambling. And they're very different policies and they're very different kinds of programs. They have different objectives. They have different target audiences. They have different desired outcomes. Because when you're looking at responsible gaming, these are prevention programs. And the intended audience for these programs is the entire customer base. And this is giving them tools and resources of how to keep gaming within their own personal limits. The problem that we've seen over the years is people perceive these as problem gambling programs, problem gambling tools. So they tend not to engage with them because they think these are not for me because I don't have a problem with gambling. So we're really looking at how do we better integrate responsible gaming into every player's experience and how do we change this perception that responsible gaming is problem gambling, that they're one and the same, and they are not, and especially with the tools and the resources. So that's one of our main goals and purposes. And again, we're also looking to drive standards and drive standards across the industry. So we are developing evidence-based best practices that we can apply to, again, help raise standards and set a US standard around responsible gaming. And then, as I said, all of our operators already do individual things for responsible gaming, and many of them do a lot in this area. Chrissy will be sharing some things that they're doing at DraftKings, and other operators may be sharing things that they're doing as well. But the unique proposition of ROGA is that we can bring everyone together and we can facilitate things across the industry that individual operators cannot do. And so that's going to shape a lot of our initiatives. So our 5 core pillars of work revolve around research, which is going to be the underpinning of everything we do, because we know evidence base is very important. We want to make sure that what we're putting in place is effective and that it's having a positive effect and not some unintended consequence that we don't want, because we have seen that in policies that have been put in place around responsible gaming in the past, because you have to look at consumer behavior. We may think this, this intervention or this policy intervention is going to have one effect, and once we actually test it and look at it from a research perspective, we can see that sometimes the consumer reaction to that is not what we anticipated. So we have to be very careful of what we're putting into place from a policy perspective, because it does affect people. And so also education and awareness. This is definitely an underpinning around all prevention campaigns. We are going to be looking at a variety of different education campaigns for a variety of different audiences. We know it's important to talk to people of different cultures, different genders, different game types in different ways in order to promote responsible gaming. And so that's going to be part of our initiative as well, is really personalizing and shaping these messages so that they actually resonate with all audiences instead of this one-size-fits-all approach. As I had said before, best practices, we are looking at developing evidence-based practices that we can then establish across all of our operators. And we're also putting together an independent data clearinghouse and an independent certification program. And I'll go into a little more detail of those. So the certification program, we are partnering with an independent third party that will come in and do a rigorous investigation around all of our operators and those that seek certification even outside of our membership, in order to set that standard of responsible gaming above and beyond what is done today. And this will give policymakers and players sort of this independent third-party stamp of approval that those that get this certification have robust responsible gaming standards. And it'll also help players differentiate between those operators that are perhaps not in the legal regulated market and those that are. So knowing who has protections in place and who do not. So we're also establishing a data clearinghouse. This is going to be basically a shared database that gives us a more holistic view of players. So instead of seeing one individual platform view of a player, we will be able to see a more holistic view. And the first iteration of what we're doing in this area is a shared self-exclusion database. And that means that we will be implementing a cross-operator, cross-jurisdiction national self-exclusion across the online space. So we're talking 90% of the market. We will be able to now better support players that say they need to restrict their gaming activity. So instead of just excluding within one operator, within one jurisdiction, now we will be excluding them across all of our operators across all jurisdictions. And that helps with people that can then go to just some other operator and play after they've made a self-exclusion decision on one operator, and will also help from people just driving over state lines in order to circumvent self-exclusion decisions. So we're really looking at how do we support people that have decided they need to restrict that activity and really do that on a broader scale instead of just at an individual operator. In terms of our first education campaign, the audience that we targeted initially is college age students, because we know this is an important population in order to engage with. And this is very evidence-based. We want it to be incredibly comprehensive, and it really is to foster a well-rounded understanding of decision-making, risk-taking, and financial management. So we partnered with some people that are very, very much experts within their fields around problem gambling with Epic Global Solutions, responsible gaming with the Responsible Gaming Council out of Ontario, Canada, and Kindbridge Behavioral Health around player support and around financial literacy. We know financial literacy is very tied to responsible gaming. So that was definitely a component here, but we are looking at, promoting skills even for those that don't choose to gamble. So things like digital health, how much time you're spending on an app, how much time you're spending on social media, video games. Again, that self-regulation of how much time, money you're spending on any activity, building good financial habits, budgeting, savings, risk associated with debt. So there's a lot of components within this education campaign that are all tied to responsible gaming, but are also very relevant life skills. We met them where they are, so it's all digital. I encourage you to please check out the site. It's knowyourplay.org, and there is some special information on those sites, especially around problem gambling and really humanizing problem gambling for those that experience that. And if you use the code ROGA25, you can get access to all of the content at the site. And then our final pillar is our research and best practices creation. And we do a lot of this through academic collaboration of supporting independent research. We are proud of our founding membership of the AI Research Hub at UNLV at the International Gaming Institute. I think AI is an incredibly important topic across a variety of industries, and gaming is no different. So we're looking at how do we really harness the positives of AI in order to help drive responsible gaming and really promote responsible gaming and really personalize it. We know from a research perspective that the more we can personalize messages, the more we can personalize responsible gaming components, then the better they're received and the more they're used. And you will see, Chrissy will talk some more in her presentation around some of the things they're doing at DraftKings around this personalization. But we're also trying to make it more integrated into the player experience instead of it being sort of a standalone program that's sort of separate. Again, to get over a lot of this conflation between problem gambling resources and responsible gaming resources. We also recently launched guidelines for VIP player program management. We know this is another area of interest. And we set the standard, and all of our members have now agreed to rise up to that standard and to start implementing all of the guidelines and best practices that we put into place. And then finally, in closing, how we're going to continue to really drive this progress. We are looking at innovation. Again, that the AI Hub is part of that. But again, that more tailored and personalized experience, making it relevant, using the unique characteristics of the online space is very important. From historically, we've always told people within a bricks and mortar to set limits, but we don't give them the tools to actually do that. So within the online space, we actually have tools where you can set those limits right there on the platform and then be reminded of those limits as you approach them. And research has shown that pop-up messaging that reminds people that they're coming up to those limits is actually very helpful and effective of keeping them within those limits. So we have a lot of unique things within the online space that we can really take advantage of with helping to promote responsible gaming. So continuing to further innovate and look at ways to do that. Again, the data clearinghouse is going to be another way where we're really looking at future iterations of what other information can we share that will really help us as we make decisions around responsible gaming with players, around risk assessment and those types of things. Again, research is going to drive everything we do. One of the research projects that we will be releasing next month, we did around looking at how we get better engagement with RG tools on the site, because again, they are helpful. So we want
Doctor,
yes,
Doctor, hello?
yes,
Yeah, we're going to have to wrap this up. We've got
Okay.
we've got a lot more to cover. So please
Certainly.
summarize where you're at and give us a chance to ask questions if we have any. But we got to get this thing moving. We're running out of time, and
Okay.
we're in time constraints.
Absolutely.
People have driven a long ways to be here and have a long ways to go home. So if you could, I guess, tell me, summarize and move on, if you would, please.
Certainly. This was the last slide. So collaboration, very important. So thank you very much.
We have questions for the doctor. Anyone have questions here? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your information. I'm sure we're going to be talking in the future. There's an awful lot to talk about here. Next, online, do we have anyone else bring in the DraftKings? It'll be Christine.
Yes,
Thurman.
I'm here.
Is that who it is? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Christine.
Good
Yeah,
afternoon,
I
everyone.
can
and
hear
thank
you.
Yes, great.
Yeah,
Thank you very
welcome.
much,
And
Mr. Chairman and Madam Co-Chair. It's a pleasure to be with you and the Select Committee this afternoon. I'm representing DraftKings. My name is Chrissy Thurmond. I am the Head of Responsible Gaming Relations. And what I'd like to share with you today, and I will keep my comments brief, is the player education resources we provide to our players. As Dr. Shatley just indicated, we are proud members of ROGA, and it really allows us an opportunity to engage with and participate in collaborative experiences with our colleagues across the entire industry. What I am going to focus on right now are the resources that DraftKings provides. So when you go on to DraftKings website, you will always find a responsible gaming button that you can bring you back to a responsible gaming center. This is our responsible gaming center. It is accessible off of every single platform we offer, and anyone can engage with it at any time. You do not have to be logged into an account to access this. So I would strongly urge you, if you have the time and you're interested, to check out rg.draftkings.com. That will bring you to the center, and it will share with you all what I'm going to explain today. In our Responsible Gaming Center, we have 4 particular areas. There are resources, which include our patron protection. There are check-in and alerts, which allow people to set reminders and check-ins, alert notifications of their time and spend and wager amounts. We, of course, have limit setting. People can set deposit limit, wager limit, contest limits. They can also see their history of limit setting, and they can see their method of deposit. And then, of course, we have breaks. Everybody is allowed to, at any time during the course of their play, to engage with cool-off periods and self-exclusion. One of the things I'd like to highlight for you today is called My Stat Sheet. This is something that is very new, and it's an industry first feature that DraftKings launched last year in 2024. And what it is, as Dr. Shatley just indicated, it's meeting players where they're at. It's a one-stop shop snapshot of the player's history. They can see last month, this month, last year, year to date, full history of their play. It shows them the platform they played on, how much they spent, their deposits and withdrawals, and how much they've won and lost. It has been a tremendously successful resource for individuals just to check in with the play. One of the things we know is that sometimes people tend to overestimate how much they've won and underestimate how much they've lost. This really gives it to them in a very easy to understand, quick snapshot. To date, we've seen more than 20 million visits to this site. The other thing that we just launched last month in June, a month and a half ago, maybe, it's August now, apologies, is my Budget Builder. This tool is a customizable limit setting tool that individuals can engage with to set their experience. Our hope is that all our players come to our site and out of the gate set limits for themselves. They can set them and forget them. They can play within their bounds. They can play within the parameters they've set for themselves. And one of the things that we've set up based on the success of my stat sheet is my Budget Builder. My Budget Builder is found directly within the RG Center, and people can engage with it. I don't have metrics for you now because it is so new. However, I can share with you that it has been tremendously successful in that we've seen lots of users engage with it to date. The other thing I want to share with you is our player education on RG tools and resources. And these are all part of our Responsible Gaming Center. And what these are anything that people want to look at as far as responsible gaming. It shares our commitment. It shares all the tools and resources that we have, including cool-off and self-exclusion periods. And it provides information on how to play. We really believe that the best players are the most educated players. And our mantra around responsible gaming is education, education, education. We feel that education, both to our employees as well as to our players, is imperative. One of the things that I say all the time internally is that the best educated employee translates to the most informed player base. And so we have that in our DNA. We are continually figuring out how we can engage our employees, how we can engage and educate our players so that they are playing for fun, that they are playing for entertainment, and they understand what they're doing. Just some examples of some proactive responsible gaming messages to all players. We send out responsible gaming messages regularly. There is no call to action on these. They are not promotions. They are simply responsible gaming messages. And as Dr. Shatley just indicated as well, you know, we know that people, when they see brief messages or they get pop-ups, that they pay attention to them and they read them. You'll notice the only thing that is there for them to go and click on is for them to engage with and utilize our tools. So you can see, you know, you can see what these are. They're very quick and easy, user-friendly, but it really just gets people thinking. One of the things I will mention is that our responsible gaming logo is, it's more fun when it's for fun. And we really try to live by that. Just some examples of some of the talent we have with responsible gaming. You may or may not know some of these people, but we are really, you know, of the belief that our talent can help drive our messaging in responsible gaming. And so therefore, the individuals that we're partnering with, we've also asked and included them in our responsible gaming messaging. So you can see here we have, you know, LeBron James, Kevin Hart, Larry Fitzgerald, just to name a few. They're really great ambassadors. We know that our players look up to them, they listen to them, and they listen to what they're saying. So having them promote our responsible gaming message is tremendously helpful to us. Some of the resources for support in Wyoming, you can also see this through our RG Center. I just wanted to share with you. I don't need to go through the whole thing, but what you'll see is there are helpful phone numbers, problem gaming supports. If people want to cool off or take a longer break or engage in counseling services, we have all that information for them. One of the things I will add is that DraftKings has implemented a cost-free connection to Kindbridge Behavioral Health, which is an online telehealth organization focusing specifically on people who have potential problems with their gaming behavior or gambling behavior. We provide this link to them. It goes to all our self-excluded players, and they can also access it, as I said, on our responsible gaming page. Anyone can access it. They can engage with it. Once they click on this link, they are taken off our site. We do not follow them. We do not track them. We just provide them with the information they need to educate themselves and take care of themselves should they choose. Also, what we've done to really get people engaged with our responsible gaming tools is we've incentivized them. We know that people love to be incentivized and love to get something. So one of the things that we did last year was we had a Shaquille O'Neal basketball signed, and we gave away headphones, etc. But we had a giveaway through a if you engaged with the responsible gaming tool, you got to be put into a raffle. And then if you won the raffle, you got the basketball or headphones or something. And it was really something that we found to be very successful. As you're probably well aware, next month is Responsible Gaming Education Month. And so we are really pushing to drive people to use our tools and resources. And we'll be doing a very similar event for that as well. And side note, the award, the win for that is Super Bowl tickets. So we're really hoping to get a lot of people engaged. Lastly, I have two more slides that I'll share with you. One of the things that we're extremely proud of at DraftKings is we have what we call the State Council Funding Program. In 2022, we implemented a program to fund state councils that are affiliated with the National Council on Problem Gambling. And we decided that I came from a state council background here in Massachusetts. I know how important funding is. I know how important non-discretionary funding is. So we made the decision at DraftKings to fund state councils who wanted to engage. There are 34 of them now that engage with us. We provide them $15,000 annually in non-discretionary funding for them to use however they see fit, whatever makes sense for their program. We've donated over $2 million in funding to date. And Adelaide Wilson, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with her or work closely with her or not, but she's the executive director of the Wyoming Council. And she shared with us that one of the goals of the council is to update its social media presence, which includes revamping and updating its website to offer training to mental health professionals and other interested parties that focus on gambling by developing an online training option. So this is just one way how councils are using the funding, and this is in your backyard. So I am extremely proud that's how it's being used, and I'm thrilled that we are able to contribute in such a meaningful way. And then lastly, I'll share with you one of the things that I focus on in particular are our external relationships, and that's with industry, regulatory bodies, and other public health experts. So we are very active members in the American Gaming Association, the National Council on Problem Gambling, and the International Center for Responsible Gaming. We also are founding partners with ROGA, with Dr. Shackley's organization, which has been an incredibly useful organization for all operators to engage with, and it just reinforces the collective collaboration that operators have in this industry. We also work very closely with the Cambridge Health Alliance Division on Addictions to make sure that all our information that we provide to our employees and to our players is evidence-based. As Dr. Shatley mentioned, we want to make sure that we are staying right on top of the science, that we're providing the most up-to-date information, and that we are moving along in a way that is not getting out ahead of ourselves. Again, we partner with Cambridge Behavioral Health. And then we also partner with an organization called Epic Global Solutions, where we bring in individuals who have a lived experience on a quarterly basis just for our employees to listen to, walk in someone's shoes, understand what it looks like if someone does have a problem with their gaming and their gambling behavior. And so that really rounds off our entire program. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is, the engagement with ROGA this year and the collaborative effort that we're seeing across the industry. We are all competitors. We all are very much want to make sure that our organizations are the best. But when it comes to responsible gaming and the individuals that engage with our platforms, we want to make sure that they are being taken care of, that they are doing it for fun and entertainment, and that they have the information and knowledge to make wise decisions about their play behavior. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? I guess Co-Chair Line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious about the state council funding program. How do states go about getting involved with you?
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Madam Chair, Co-Chair. We contacted all the state councils in the United States that are affiliated with the NCPG. We asked them if they wanted the funding. There are a handful that did not want funding, which is perfectly fine. And then the others have. So if they are not if a new council comes in lines, as an example, Texas, I heard about that. I reached out directly to them. They are now part of our group. So it's we pretty much have our finger on the pulse of where the councils are.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, do we have FanDuel online, Representative FanDuel? Ashley Cahill. Mr. Picard, would you like to come up and speak about anything? I hate to, I'm not goating you into coming up, Mr. Picard, but you're here, so I thought, well, you came this far, you might as well say hello. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman, members of the Select Committee. My name is Dave Pickard. I represent the Sports Betting Alliance, and I brought Dr. Shatley and Chrissy Thurman to you today. Unfortunately, the FanDuel representative had a conflict later this afternoon, so was not able to be here. But just to follow up on the meeting, your first meeting, and then this meeting. And some of the takeaways, and I think the Select Committee has recognized that the responsible gaming and problem gaming is one of the priorities that this committee should take up. And part of that is the education. So that's what I wanted to bring to you today, were these two ladies that would provide you with information from the Sports Betting Alliance on how we address responsible gaming, how seriously we take the topic. These are our customers, we're competitors, and we want them to have health, well-being. And so that's the commitment that we put into it. So that's the purpose for them. I really appreciate the opportunity to bring them in today. And if there are any questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Thank you for coming and stepping up, even though you didn't want to do it originally. Task Force, any questions? Seeing none, thank you. And
Thank you.
obviously, it's an issue that we have to deal with. We just have to figure out how we can be effective in dealing with it.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chairman and committee, we want to be here as a resource, provide any information. And if there are any other questions about how other operators handle their responsible gaming, as Roga and Dr. Shatley indicated, most of, well, not most, all of our members have similar RG programs, and we'd be happy to share those with you.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yep.
So we're going to move to public comment now. Is anyone in the public wishes to come up and speak on
Mr.
this
Chairman,
matter?
I think we did have the Laramie County Gambling Prevention and Treatment Collaborative and the Wyoming Gaming Commission potentially available to testify here in person
Oh, they're in
and
person?
on the agenda.
Oh, well, bring them up if they're here. Oh, Brittany, well, we're gonna.
Chairman Kolb, for the Wyoming Gaming Commission, she's actually online. Not me.
Oh,
You don't want to hear from me
Brittany?
on this one. It'd be Sarah Beth.
Sarah Beth?
Yep.
Okay, we'll bring Sarah Beth online and guess well, actually, you're here in person. You go first, Sarah Beth, get ready to go. So we take, if you come in, there's priority. So, and this poor lady's been waiting out here. I've noticed you here for a few days, so please tell us who you are and what you'd like us to know.
Well, good afternoon, Co-Chair Kolb, Co-Chair Lean. My name is Susan Janke, and I am part of the Laramie County Gambling Prevention and Treatment Collaborative, and we are the team that completed the Laramie County Gambling Environmental Scan that, in case you're wondering where some of those prevention dollars went, Laramie County opted to use some of its money to try and better understand what gaming and gambling looks like in our county. So what I would like to do, I timed my comments out, so I'll be brief. I'd like to talk to you about some of the highlights from our study and what that impact might look like for the rest of the state. So our project found that approximately 43% of adults in Laramie County have gambled in the last year. So that's approximately 32,000 people. And of that group of people, approximately 12,000 exhibit at least one problem associated with problem gambling, and 5% would meet the criteria or the diagnosis for being a problem gambler. So that's about 1,600 people. So we're not talking about a large group of people. The studies, I think where the issue comes in and where it's important to us in Laramie County is that when someone has a problem with gambling, that problem impacts 6 to 8 other people. And it tends to be their spouse, their children, close family members, someone they may live with. And so for our county, that's 9,600 to 12,000 people who are suffering consequences due to problem gambling who aren't the gambler themselves, and don't have necessarily the ability to, to control what's going on. Numerous studies have also suggested that between 15 and 50% of the people who gamble generate 60% of the revenue that's seen by the host organization. And I think that was partially supported by testimony that you heard yesterday. The gentleman from the Northern Arapaho tribe, when he commented that between 2012 and 2025, they saw their foot traffic decrease by 66%. Right after that, he said their revenues had only dropped by 1/3. And so the implication there is that you've got a core group of people who regularly engage in gambling, who are generating a significant amount of those revenues. I would also like to point out that in June of 2025, WyoFile reported that problem gambling of people who are seeking treatment, that approximately 7 to 30% of those individuals have attempted suicide. And it's concerning to us because we all know that suicide is a significant concern in our state. The Wyoming Council on Problem Gambling also indicated that 50% of the people who seek treatment have experienced suicidal ideation. So it's 1,600 people with problem gambling, but there are other implications that I would like you to consider. Our study also found that 18 to 29-year-olds, especially young men, are most at risk for developing problems directly related to gaming and gambling, and particularly with online gambling, which is their preferred mode of playing. The problems are often magnified when they're able to access those games through, like a cell phone. So you don't need to be sitting at a computer terminal to play. You can pull your phone out and engage when you're so moved. I want to switch a little bit now. When we talk about help seeking, we've heard several people say that the rate of seeking help amongst people with problem gambling is low, and that's a factual statement. And it's even worse in rural areas. Respondents to the online survey we conducted in Laramie County, 75% said that they would not they're not going to go to the mental health center to ask for help. Part of that is because people with gambling problems don't perceive it. They don't see gambling as the problem. The problem is that they have a financial problem. And so they're inclined to seek out guidance to help them get their finances back in order. They may talk to their physician because they're stressed out and they're having trouble sleeping at night. And so basing it on 22 people seeking treatment at the mental health center for gambling problems doesn't mean that people don't need help and that they aren't looking for help. They're just not going to the mental health center for it. And they are interested in online assistance. Most of them said they would seek online telehealth services. They would seek online financial counseling services from something there are services available specifically for gamblers to help them put a financial plan in place to get back on track again. So to kind of bring this around, there's approximately $500,000 available in the state right now to address gaming-related prevention and treatment services. And I would like to offer a couple suggestions that are coming from people who aren't involved in the gaming industry that, I live in Laramie County. I've lived there a long time and I care about what's happening in our community, and so do the people on our collaborative. We would like to see a responsible gaming infrastructure put in place by Wyoming, by people who aren't having a vested interest in the revenues generated by that industry. And some examples might be developing a Wyoming-specific responsible gaming website, just a site where people can go to get information, where they could get directed to different types of resources, where they could find questionnaires, self-assessment tools that they could complete and make their own decision about what's happening. We could include messaging that's tailored to high-risk populations, but maybe more importantly, put general messaging in place that might just help people be responsible to begin with. Tools to help them stay safe, to not use their credit card when they're going, to take a set amount of money that they can afford to lose. So messages that just start from the bottom and help people have a good experience and one that's healthy for their families. And then we'd like to, consider, we're planning on, we just issued the RFP to launch a targeted media campaign in our community to do outreach to those communities and to get general messaging out to help people make responsible choices. That kind of a media campaign could go statewide. And then to help, for the state to consider expanding access to telehealth support services that we know people will go to rather than thinking that they'll show up at the mental health center. So I see Wyoming has an opportunity and it has the resources to act before problem gambling and gaming negatively affect our communities. Problem gaming and gambling may impact a relatively small part of the population, but the impact that it has ends up spreading out in terms of financial impacts, mental health, and social costs. And they're particularly disproportionately impacting people who have fewer resources. So less education, less money, less ability to recover from getting in trouble. The Laramie County Gambling Prevention and Treatment Collaborative welcomes the opportunity to collaborate with this committee and with others to try and implement strategies that are Wyoming grown that can help support our own people. So that's all I have to say, and I'm happy to entertain questions.
Thank you for coming in. I can tell you Labor Health is the committee that would probably do the hard lifting work on this. Oh, it's critical this task force understand there's a problem out there and what other folks are trying to do to solve it, because we're throwing a lot of money at this and I don't really know empirically if it's doing any good or not. So it's an important part of the puzzle that we're working on. So our co-chair, Lane, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming all this way and thank you for preparing the data. My question comes from your report on page 10. It talks about online gaming and in-person gaming frequency. And I was just wondering the length of time over which you gathered these statistics.
Yes, so we started, the online survey was launched in January. And I believe we kept it, we hired a panel company out of Denver to find the respondents. So they were all from Laramie County. I think we had 123 people total. And I believe we ended up keeping the survey open for 6 weeks to get that number. And that was like in January of 2025.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your
thank you.
time and thank you for your perseverance.
Yeah,
And
it's
hanging
been a
out in
long
the audience. Yeah, thank you for coming all this way.
Thank you.
And then online, can you bring Sarah Beth or?
There's one in line that's with this lady.
Well, we only have, let me be clear. We were supposed to be done at 3 o'clock. People that show up in person have priority, right? So we'll give you maximum of 5 minutes apiece. Or if you want to, one person wants to speak, that's fine. You can do what you'd like, but so if you continue with what you'd like to tell us, we'd like to hear it. Whoever would like to go first, I don't know. They pulled together.
No, this one.
Susan or Brittany? Oh, Brittany's here. Okay. Brittany, would you like to go first?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for this time. I will defer the rest of my time to Sarah Beth and what she has to share, since Susan was able to attend and share in person. But please rest assured that I am happy to stand if there are any questions or if you wish to have any further follow-up from our study conducted in Laramie County. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for coming online. This may continue in the next meeting. We'll make a decision about if we need to continue because we ran out of time, but just so you understand. All right, would you like to continue?
Good afternoon, committee members. Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes. I promise I will be very brief. I just wanted to thank you for the time to talk about this. Next month, September 19th, there is a problem gambling conference in Buffalo that the Wyoming Council on Problem Gambling is sponsoring. So that's Friday, September 19th in Buffalo. And I wanted to let you know that that is an option and it's open to the public. Another thing from the Wyoming Council on Problem Gambling is what DraftKings was talking about, the partnership with KindBridge. And our Wyoming Council on Problem Gambling also has that partnership with Kindbridge Mental Health. Anyone in Wyoming can go to them and receive counseling for problem gambling or other things through this opportunity. So that is available for everyone as well. The lottery has a option for interested treatment providers to receive training to become certified in treating people with problem gambling, and folks can go through them to receive a certification. 1-800-GAMBLER is still one of the best resources out there. I looked up the statistics this morning, and since 2016, there have been 6,519 calls to that number from Wyoming. It shows a chart on there, and you can see how that number has grown. In 2023, they enabled a chat function as well as a texting function. They've had 93 chats and 83 text messages to that number from Wyoming since 2023. So people are utilizing that resource, and it is out there. Bringing it all the way back around to the beginning of yesterday when Spectrum spoke about their self-exclusion and having forfeitable winnings and recovering gambling losses. We don't have anything that covers that, but there are lots of other states that do, and I would be happy to help with any of those things as well. And that is everything I put on my list to quickly let you know about.
Well, thank you, Sarah Beth, for your brevity.
You're welcome.
We have a question, I assume. A co-chair line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, when they call the 1-800-GAMBLER, where do they go? Do they get a local resource, or are they then sent to a telehealth? What happens to them when they make that phone call?
The 1-800-GAMBLER, they have regional areas, and they have trained professionals on the phone line that talk them through, speak to them, and then can refer them to local resources.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My follow-up will be about self-exclusion. Can family members or friends place individuals on that list, or is it just solely the self-exclusion?
No, somebody else cannot place someone on that exclusion list. It is a voluntary self-exclusion. It's conversations that they can be had. They can help them fill it out, but someone cannot put somebody else on that list.
Yes, thank you. I did have one question. Do you have any demographics data on the people, the age of folks that you see having the larger problem with gambling? I mean, because to your point about using a phone, right, texting and all that, that's kind of a younger person's thing. And as an older person might not do the same thing as that. So do you have any idea, or have you got any feeling for the group of people you think are really abusing this the most?
I do not have any hard statistics or data or information, but that is something that I can talk to the Responsible Gaming Coalition about including some of that possibly in the upcoming study. I would surmise what you're saying is fairly true, that it is a younger population, and as Dr. Johansson said, that that younger generation is doing more of the texting and chatting. That would be my general inclination, but I do not have any hard data on that.
Yeah, if you could share that with us at a point in time when you feel more certain about what your group believes, that would be great.
Okay.
But it's definitely a problem. We're just dealing with a lot of things, right?
Yep.
And this happens to be one part of that thing, but and this will be going on for years. And I don't, no matter what committee or whatever the task, whatever the group is that gets together that deals with this is not going to go away. This will continue on. So, persevere. and we'll get through this. But thank you for your
Absolutely.
testimony. Did anyone else in the task force? Seeing nobody else having a comment, thank you. I suppose you might want to stay online and listen, and if someone comes up in public comment, if they do, maybe there's an opportunity to have a comment about that. But thank
Absolutely.
you again for your testimony.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to talk about this? That's here. Uh-oh, spoke too long. Mr. Riemann, please come on up here, Jeremiah, and introduce yourself for folks online so they don't have to go back and look at who you were before.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jeremiah Riemann here on behalf of the Wyoming County Commissioners Association. Just briefly, I'd just ask that you do continue to have this on your agenda. I do think that there is a way to consolidate some of the funding that exists out there so that we can do a better job of assisting people and providing you the information that you need. You heard yesterday from the county attorney here that she was a little bit surprised they weren't taking advantage of the funding. When I showed her the figure, she understood why they weren't taking advantage of that funding. So, and it's partly because we've got disparate pockets of resources out there. So again, just would encourage you to keep this as a topic. I'm happy to work on legislation that might consolidate that. We're not saying it has to be us, but we just think we can do a better job for everybody. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd say for questions.
Thank you for your comments. Task force, anybody have any follow up with that? No, seeing none. Thank you. Thank you for staying around. Thank you for coming back. Any further business that which to be discussed amongst the task force? Co-chair Line.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to request that the problem gambling remain within this committee because it's a significant portion of knowing how many machines and saturation, what we're doing to our local folks. I would also ask that the Wyoming Department of Health, that we are able to receive the update from CapFin, the CapFin presentation. And when we move to the next meeting, if the Wyoming Gaming Commission, Ms. Lyon, has any presentation data that she'd be able to give ahead of attending the problem gambling in Buffalo, if she has any resources that she could share with us, just so that we're staying up to date on what's going on in this sector.
Fair enough. Everyone in agreement with that? Hoorah. Hoorah. So it shall be done. Tamara, could you go over what we've, I guess, accomplished in this 2-day meeting for a synopsis for everybody?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've accomplished quite a bit, but what I have noted for you as staff directives so that we may accomplish them when we return home is first to carry over the bill draft 26 LSO 145 local approval for simulcasting. Carry that over till the next meeting and receive and incorporate amendments on that, how to share authority from, or who does what with Wyoming County Commissioners Association and Wyoming Association of Municipalities. Then to address the public notice issue through more research on what we might recommend would take care of that language issue. And you did go ahead and amend the bill to remove the contested case hearing, and I can bring that back when you carry that bill over. Next, I have carryover of the moratorium bill. That's 26 LSO 152 as drafted. I have carryover of 26 LSO 146 money laundering as amended today, and to receive and incorporate changes from the Wyoming Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police and the Wyoming County and Prosecuting Attorneys Association. I have a new bill draft to clarify specific zoning authority for historic horse racing and simulcasting through special use. Limit terminals to 1,200 for each racetrack, and direct rulemaking authority on the licensure of terminals that are based on how many are actually in use before more are requested. I have a new bill draft requested on social gambling exemption to get that from the Wyoming Liquor Association, the Gaming Commission, and the Association of Sheriffs and Chiefs of Police. I have a request to Management Council for one additional meeting day. And I think I just heard a request to continue your topic on responsible gaming, responsible gambling, problem gambling, and social impacts with the information that we can get, if updated.
I thank you for the summarized list. Can't even speak. Summarization, that's the word I was struggling with. Thank you for that. Seeing no further business coming before this task force, I'll call this task force meeting adjourned.
Get the fork in it.
Not even any clapping or anything. We're all free to